pronouns and where you're zooming in from.
Hey, I will do it.
Good to see folks. Good to see you, Sue. We got our, let's see. While I'm sharing, I can't see who's coming in. So,
I got it.
all right. So we're welcome all to the first post-Ben Advocates Network. So thank you all for coming and for your grace if I stumble a little bit in carrying off this without Ben. But we will be, hopefully by next month, you will meet the new coordinator of public affairs. All right. Give it one more minute. Please put all this stuff in the chat. Just know where you're zooming in from.
Oh.
And um, if just let me know when Senator Kipp is on, because I'm not going to be able to see
I
Delana.
will.
All right. Cindy, great to see you.
Ooh, whoops.
All right. I'm going to get going through the preliminaries. We have some new people, so I'm just going to go through this quickly. That our vision is that through public education, which is more important to say than ever, through public education, every Colorado student, regardless of their zip code, learning needs, languages, identities, or the color of their skin, graduates prepared to lead their best life. And the way that we do this with your help and our Advocates Network is a key part of it, that we harness the power of grassroots activism and diverse, inclusive networks to guarantee that public schools in every Colorado community are welcoming and adequately, equitably, and sustainably funded. And we hope to have a great space for conversation, for questions, and the exchange of ideas. Let's see, there will be a link to the June chat. Actually, if you just go to greateducation.org/advocates network, and again, Delana, maybe you can just put that in. You can always go to, on our website, you can always go to the Advocates Network page and sign up for the next couple of events. Our community commitments, as always, please step up and speak up. Make sure that you're giving room for others to speak up, but as well, we are bringing all of our knowledge and experience together to expand it beyond the sum of its parts, and presuming positive intent, but acknowledging impact. So we're talking about getting it done, and we'll keep being clear on what it is. Senator, let me make sure that I'm not getting any message from Senator Kipp can't find a link. Can you just send her one, Delana? Um, okay, let me just tell her
Yep,
I'm on it.
I will send her a link.
It's uh, okay. All right. So as soon as Senator Kipp is on, we are going to give her the opportunity to give her perspective on what was a very challenging session with the need to cut $1.2 billion out of just the amount necessary to maintain current caseload plus inflation. And we'll talk a little bit about how the legislature did in minimizing cuts Hang on. I don't want to once I get going on the next stuff, it will take on a life of its own. Uh, okay. How are we doing, Delana?
I am getting there. Just give me 1 minute.
Okay. All right. Okay. I'm going to stop sharing for a second so we can see each other. Uh, Good to see you all. Trying to think if there's a quick wow, it is great to see a lot of our longtime advocates, and I'm just waiting to see one of them.
Lisa, I sent it to Cathy at cathykipp.com. Do you have
Send
another?
it to the Senate here. I will do it right
If you
now.
just put it in the chat, I can send it.
Um, okay, hang on,
Sorry,
where's
folks.
mine? She's going to come on and she's going to look like Lisa Weil. I think we can all deal with that.
Okay. I didn't have another email for her. Sorry.
Okay. All right. Thank you all for your grace here.
Just glad it's not me. Always makes me feel
Well,
better. That's sort of sick, but
yeah, thank you, I think. All right, she should have it. Uh, just, I'm just trying to think of something that will take just a minute. Who's got anybody tell a joke? No, maybe not.
It's a beautiful day. Can't complain about that.
Oh,
True.
good to know.
If
It
you
is a
try
little
hard, you
hot
can
out.
complain about anything, but
yeah,
let's not complain about this.
Yeah.
no, it was too hot yesterday.
Yeah, let's,
Okay, talking about a joke, ECCA, did the Republicans pass it today?
uh, that is what I think the Ways and Means, I know it was in front of them. Yeah, is there uh for those of you who watched the session this year, any thoughts 1 week out about how it turned out?
Well, as far as the Federal Ways and Means Committee, I was listening to part of that. And what struck me was they were talking about the distribution table for tax cuts that are in this bill. And for the wealthy, it's $223 per person. And for the not wealthy, the challenged poor people, it's 73 cents.
Ooh.
So there's a little problem there with the distribution, fair distribution of tax cuts. And they're banking on the extension of the 2017 tax, doubling the standard deduction as the big gift to poor people.
Right. Well, on that happy note from the federal government, which sets the tone of what we're up against.
Yeah.
I saw her. There you are, right in the middle. Our special guest today, who has just been a champion all along for us in school funding. I always have to start off with the fact that she herself gathered 4,000 signatures for Amendment 73 all over the state. But her championship for public education continues in a way that is rare in the legislature, too rare. And so I am going to turn it over to Senator Kipp to talk about your view of the session and what you want folks to know, and then I will sort of do our recap. But I wanted to give you first crack at talking about what this session means to public education.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me today. I mean, I am sure you all heard there is no money. I mean, that was sort of like our banner headline at the top of everything we did this session is there is no money. Let's see what we can figure out to do without money. We were hopeful we would make progress in some areas. We did at least pass the School Finance Act. We are implementing the new finance formula, school finance formula, which I know there's differing opinions on that, but that's what we are doing. We are moving forward with that. Our JBC, our Joint Budget Committee, is very protective of education. And so we are fortunate to have a very supportive Joint Budget Committee. We were able to get our resolution done, but I mean, leadership, frankly, has been fairly challenging in some ways. Like we were able to pass our resolution in the Senate, but we couldn't get permission to get it done in the House. Although Senator Bacon or Representative Bacon and Representative Hamrick read the parts of the resolution out loud on the floor, and were able to at least get it some airtime. And I think that got some press, so that was a great thing. We're just really trying to do everything we can, but ultimately we're going to have to go to the ballot, right? We even had people who were very, I think, right in wanting to bring a bill, a resolution that basically said we as a state, we as legislators want to back a lawsuit challenging the constitutionality of Tabor. And yet we were prevented from doing that, right? We had the votes that would have passed in both chambers if we'd been able to bring it, but politics is challenging, and we were not able to bring it for a vote. And so, we continue to find ourselves hamstrung in a lot of ways, but I think you will find that the majority of legislators in both the House and the Senate are supportive of education and want to protect education. And it's just, depending on, if you're a Democrat or Republican, I mean, the Republicans, basically, oh my gosh, I am like being, you can't even hear me. No, I'm so sorry. Now, hopefully you can all hear me. But there are just a lot of challenges getting into a place where we can have these conversations. But I do know that a lot of our legislative folks are really interested in being part of a conversation about a ballot issue. And that is really, where the Democrats and the Republicans part. Everybody thinks education is important. If you're a Republican, you'd say, oh, those Democrats, they're just spending all the money in all the wrong ways and appropriating it incorrectly and misappropriating it, and therefore we don't have money for education. If you're a Democrat, you say, hey, Tabor's doing what it was intended to do and making government so small that we can drown it in a bathtub, and we need more money. So I think you will find that there's a lot of interest amongst folks in the legislature in getting involved in figuring out, what do we do? We have the adequacy studies now, and how do we move forward? How do we go to the ballot to get more money? That's what we have to do. I know people are working on it, and I think a lot of times your legislative folks are left out of the loop on it. So I don't know totally what's going on. So I look forward to learning more of that from all of you. But that's what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to go and ask our voters for more money to properly fund the things we want to fund. And of course, we could be looking at, just so you all know, another special session this year, because depending on what happens with Medicaid, we might be coming in for another round of budget cuts. So, I mean, just don't be surprised if that should happen. And I'll be quiet now, but happy to answer any questions if that would be useful. But thank you all for having me.
Just want to leave room for some questions here, and then Senator Kipp is staying with us and can comment on everything else that we said. But any quick questions for Senator Kipp to get started. Okay. Well, there will be many opportunities. So I'm going to go back to presenting
I have
and
a question.
I do too.
yeah,
I do
there's
too.
a
I couldn't
technical-
find my hand.
go for it.
Oh, I
Oh.
just wanted to know, Senator Kipp, do you know what kinds of budget cuts might be coming from the federal level that will impact us?
So if I think people are really concerned, especially about Medicaid right now, right? Also, I mean, I think the chaos of the situation, nobody knows what else is going to happen. But the Medicaid budgets are extremely problematic because when you look at our state budget as a whole, I mean, around a third of the money that we are spending is going to do Medicaid matches. But now, I mean, I'm told this thing called an FMAP is gone, which means all the match is gone. There's going to be a lot of stuff happening, and it's going, and that even though it's not in the area of education, it's going to impact what the money that we have as a state. And it's going to impact people all over the state because it's going to be our poorest people who are going to now, show up at hospitals, and maybe they're insured by Medicaid now, but now they're not going to be insured. So now hospitals are going to have to put up with people seeking uncompensated care. And now they're not going to have as much money, right, to do their things. And that means that we're going to have probably fewer doctors and fewer nurses and fewer people who work in hospital. I mean, it's just, it is attacking the poorest people in our society for the benefit of a few wealthy people who want to get some more money because they don't have enough, even though they're freaking billionaires.
Mhm.
And it's going to harm people. And even though it doesn't, those are not like education dollars, they are dollars that are going to impact, frankly, everybody and all of the systems in our state. So, we do things in our state that to get those federal dollars, but we don't have enough money to continue doing everything that we currently do, especially as we find that the federal government is going to leave, large gaping holes in those areas. So I think the question is how much is going to get cut and how deep are the cuts going to be.
Thank you. That's my fear too.
Yeah.
Evie?
So I know that 1274 Healthy School Meals program passed. Does the governor have to sign it for it to go forward? And if so, do you believe he will?
Yeah, I have not heard that he's not going to sign that one. There's all kinds of other things that he is threatening. I do believe he has to sign it. It is like a regular bill, and because it proposed two different ballot measures, right? The first ballot measure is saying, hey, can we keep the money that was above what we guessed the amount we would be getting would be? And then the second one is going and asking for additional funds on top of that so we can continue providing free meals to all kids.
Well, the second one basically essentially raises taxes on higher income earners. And that's the only reason I wonder about the governor's signing it.
I haven't heard that there's an issue with him signing that particular bill. I've heard issues about other bills, but not my bill, so I might not be totally in the loop. But I have not heard there's an issue there.
Thanks. I see a couple things in the chat, one from Christy about the Kids Matter Fund and the Colker-Hamrick amendment that ended up being added to the School Finance Act.
Yeah, so I mean, again, it's all good to say, okay, we want to take 0.1% and of all state revenue and put it into the school finance into the state education fund, really. I mean, you can call it, a Kids Matter Fund. I mean, Senator Kolker just had this idea that that would be less likely to be swept. I don't think that's the case. I mean, honestly, the state education fund has always been used for this purpose, and I don't see why it wouldn't be. The problem that we have there is that the amount that they originally wanted to put in, we have a structural deficit problem at the state level, and the amount of money that we're going to have less next year is going to be less than what we had this year. This year, we were able to sweep a lot of one-time funds, right? We found some cash funds. They were saying, okay, let's take money out of this cash fund and stick it over here. They were able to do that, I think, with like, I don't know, quite a large number, quite a large amount of money. And we don't have those one-time funds available next year. We're told that next year we're going to have actual children in wheelchairs in the Capitol asking for money that we don't have to give them. So the concern with that idea was that, well, so you're going to have this money here, and you're going to say it has to go here. A, that's statutory, and it can just get changed by the Joint Budget Committee. They just have to run a bill, right? And B, we don't know what next year's budget looks like. We don't even know what the rest of this year's coming budget looks like. We're just in a really bad place. So there was a compromise reached to put, like, I think instead of 0.1%, I think we did 0.7, but I think that's really just going to cover the amount that we need in order to pay for the School Finance Act anyway. At any rate, lots of moving parts at the end, but ultimately, we still are going to have to go to the ballot and ask the voters if they're willing to pony up to pay so our kids can be properly educated, so that we can have adequate funding for our public schools. There's just simply not enough money, no matter what amendments, people might stick on the School Finance Act to get us enough money.
Christy, 1 second. I'm just going to get to Katie's question in the chat about whether healthcare has surpassed education in the budget as the largest spending category.
I do believe that it has, and there was more spending anticipated. I mean, and it's just so you all know too, it's not unique to Colorado, right? And I feel like I'm really being Debbie Downer this whole meeting, so I'm sorry about that. But the nationwide Medicaid costs have gone up, right? And so, like, the numbers of people we have on Medicaid now are about the same that we had prior to the pandemic, yet we think we have pulled off more people than we should have. So the numbers should probably be higher. So we're probably actually under, but every person is costing us quite a bit more money. And so, when we're going through the budgeting process of saying, well, every person costs more money, and if nobody will take your Medicaid, if you aren't able to, pay decent provider rates, it's just this whole horrible cycle of, what it comes down to is budgets are moral documents, and we're failing.
And I would just add to that we used to get, I think the general fund, 40%, over 40% of the general fund went to K-12. It is now in the 30s. It keeps shrinking.
Yeah, I think it's like
only
33% now.
The only reason that we haven't cut schools more deeply is because our property values have gone up so fast. And when you think about the legislature could have said, oh, we're getting so much more from the local share. If we continue the same amount of effort, we can actually make a big increase beyond just the minimum for our schools. But because of that structural deficit, they've just been taking all that benefit of the local and reducing the state share. Christy.
My question goes back to Kids Matter. I didn't read it. Is it debruced, the money coming in from that?
Mm-mm.
Oh, okay. So,
Yeah, because that would require a vote of the people to do that.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Anything else before we sort of go through a lot of what Senator Kipp has already said, just in the shape of some slides. Okay. So, here's our very quick take, and this is we could go more in depth, but really the big ticket items that happened in the session sort of set the stage for what we do next, and that's the level of detail. So as Senator Kipp just said, we were able to pass Senate Joint Resolution 21 with bipartisan support. I believe we had 6 Republicans voting yes. This happened thanks to Senator Kipp on the day of our advocacy day. So our folks were all sitting on the floor, many of you here today. I'm just going to show one quick clip from this actually. I think it's a great analogy that Senator Bridges put forward, and it's been something of a catchphrase about
But the reason that I am on this resolution
hat.
today, this will be the second time that I refer to the West Wing in under a month, so bear with me. Story about 2 Irishmen who come to a wall. They're out on a walk and they say, well, what do we do now? And one of the Irishmen takes his cap and throws it over the wall. The other one turns to him and goes, what did you just do? He says, well, now we have to find a way around this wall. That's where we are today. This resolution says we are throwing our hat over the wall. We know where we need to get. We're not quite sure how we're going to get there yet, but we know we have a destination. There's a wall in the way, but we're going to get there.
So the hat over the wall is something to keep in mind, that that's the courage and that we are needing from our leaders, and the courage that we have to show that we know that the hat's over the wall and we're going to get there. So grading the session, the legislature did prioritize K-12 by creating the Kids Matter Fund. That said, with all of the caveats that Senator Kipp talked about, that it does not debruce any new money. It's just putting money that is already coming into a fund to try to make it harder to cut. It's a statement, but it could, considering what is coming down the pike in terms of a structural deficit plus the loss of money from the federal government, it could just be a speed bump. Considering that there was $1.2 billion Tabor created deficit, it could have been much, much worse. One of the really good signs, and I thank many of you who took action on the governor's averaging plan. The governor's had a plan that was going to say that the BS factor was still 0, but was going to cut $150 million out of our schools by counting fewer students. And the legislature just stood up to that. That said, it's probably going to start happening next year when, as Senator Kipp said, they found all the change in the cushions, and they've used all the one-term dollars, so time dollars. So next year we'll see how that goes. Where there was fail, K-12 did better than it could have considering the cuts, but it is being funded below what the current law was as of the beginning of this session. There were changes made. One of those changes is that the House Bill 1448 that passed last year, the new School Finance Act, it was supposed to put $500 million into our school finance over 5 years. By the time it passed last year, they've made it 6 years, and now it's 7 years that they're stretching out that $500 million investment, which is a good start. But since we have those adequacy studies that show that we need $3.5 to $4.1 billion each year, that is a drop in the bucket. There was a hold harmless that was put into the School Finance Act, which, by the way, is HB 1320 for those of you who want to read it for some reason. That hold harmless is saying that every year you can't go below, this year you can't go below what you got last year, which means that that districts, especially those with declining enrollment, may not even get an inflation increase. And the BEST program, the Building Excellent Schools Today program, which takes funding, some of it from marijuana taxes, and puts it into the building of capital in districts that could not otherwise afford it. That was one of those places where they were looking for anywhere where they could get some funding, and that was one. The incomplete grade, the House did not pass Senate Joint Resolution 2521. And also, I will say that Senator Kipp was working with us to create an interim committee that would not take that resolution and say, not only are we saying that we're not going to set those adequacy studies on a shelf, we are actually going to start studying what we need to do to get from where we are to where the adequacy studies say we need to go. And we were told there wasn't enough money to have any interim committees. So it was frustrating that we could not get the House to put it on the floor. Had it gotten to the floor, it would have passed easily, and it would have been great to give an opportunity for an up or down vote on, are we going to do something with the adequacy studies? And I just, going back again to that resolution, that was a huge deal. It's very rare that we get a vote by the legislature on up or down on, are you committed to public education like that? And so again, thank you, Senator Kipp, for making it happen. So that was one big disappointment, that we didn't get that from the House. It's incomplete. There was no action on the Tabor resolution, as Senator Kipp mentioned. We still have the structural deficit. We may need a special session because of the budgeting at the federal level, and Colorado remains vulnerable to federal cuts and a recession, which may well happen in the coming months with the tariffs. And the vision that I have is of Colorado as a boxer in the ring with Doge and Trump, and getting kind of sucker punched with these Medicare cuts, possible Department of Education cuts, and our hands are tied behind our back because of Tabor. And while other states can take steps to fix things, we have this incredibly cumbersome problem of needing to go to the ballot, and which frankly requires work starting on. Jerry, you have a question?
I'm curious. There's no money for interim committees, but there's going to be money for a special session, which is not cheap.
Well, Senator, you want to take that one?
Yeah, so the Joint Budget Committee actually removed all funding from the special session fund, whatever fund that is. But yeah, I mean, if we have to have a special session in order to cut money, we have to have a special session to cut money. I know it's a challenge.
It's no way to run a state, but this is, and one of the things that we all can do when you hear about this, when you hear about the special session, when you hear about cuts, is to say, these are the Tabor cuts. Because it is Tabor that is making it impossible for us to respond in a meaningful way. And it has been for the last 10 years. We gave back $8-9 billion over the last 4 years. That could have gone into reserves. It could have gone into the School Finance Act. It could be preventing a lot of cuts. So these are the Tabor cuts. So what's the plan? We want to go from where we are, and can be kind of depressing, but that is not who we are. That is why we're doing the Get It Done campaign, which started, we got again, thank you to Senator Kipp. We got the Adequacy Studies Commission for the first time. It's something Great Ed was working on for 20 years, and Senator Kipp got it into the School Finance Act. We started this Get It Done campaign last year. The adequacy studies were released in January. We've gone through the session. We tried to get the interim committee. We weren't able to do that, but we did get the resolution introduced and passed, and we have a commitment from a number of legislators who are going to take on the work that the interim committee would have done on a voluntary basis. And we'll be working with Senator Kipp and with Representative Bacon, who was going to be on this call, but is actually in Israel at the moment with her regrets. I mean, not that she's in Israel, but that she is not here. So now we are here. We are in this May to December period where there's going to be an informal interim committee. And we have to really build the local teams that we've been talking about. We've gotten a good start. And I'm going to talk really briefly about sort of what the vision is there. And you'll see next year is a pretty big one. We will have a new version of this that takes us from May through November 2026. All we got to do next year is pass and fund the Colorado Blueprint for Student Success. There's a lot there, but we know that we have to go to the voters. As Senator Kipp has said, this is not something that the legislature can do alone. We all have to come together to make this happen, to have that aspiration to how we would build toward adequacy and how are we going to fund it. So I'm going to
Can
jump.
I ask a question?
Oh, yeah,
Lisa?
sure. Yeah.
So who are the other legislators besides Senator Kipp and Representative Bacon who have expressed interest in being on this informal committee? Do you know?
Yes. Senator, do you have any? I can name a few others, but the main point I'm going to make is we have to recruit those people. That is our job. But Senator, do you have any?
Yeah, I think, now that we're there, I think what we need to do is put the plan together and then invite people, right? We've had people who are on the various education committees who said, oh yeah, sure, I'd be interested in, but getting, people to commit once you have actual dates and an idea of where we're going is another thing. But I think it's important to say that we all know that we're going to have to figure out how to fund our schools. So we're just going to have to be very inclusive in making sure that we not only invite people to participate, but also have a way of keeping our legislators updated as we go through and put together a plan, because not everybody is going to be able to, be at all the meetings. I mean, frankly, I've already started working on my bills for next session, but if we don't keep people in the loop, it's I think legislators really will appreciate being included in knowing what's going on, because I mean we're sort of in a different lane sometimes and we don't always have that information.
And I would just add, I mean, there's Representative Hamrick and Senator Kolker, Representative Garcia. There's a lot of people who have shown interest in this. What we know is that a lot of legislators who are not directly connected to education frequently say, I'm not on the education committee, so that's not my thing, or you don't have to worry about me. I'm totally pro education, and that gets them sometimes off the hook for knowing what the adequacy study means, getting into their gut. This is why we have to do something about this, hearing the stories from their communities to say, this is why we want you to fight. We're giving you the stories that you can use to talk about why this is important. And that's what we're working on. That is what May through December is about. I put action equals resistance here because there are so many things that are pulling us in different directions to support. There are so many issues, and we've all got to do all of those things. But I want to make the point that taking action on public education in Colorado taking action on fiscal reform and dealing with Tabor, that is resistance. That is what is preventing that's the only way that Colorado can Trump and Doge proof this state and our students. And so taking this action is part of all of our work in defending democracy and defending public education in Colorado. This doesn't mean to be scary, but this is just sort of looking at the next year and a half. We had one of these before, and we basically stayed on track. This year, and we have 3 tracks: public education voter over there on the left, which is how we get people engaged in helping folks know how to vote in a way that supports public education. We've got the Get It Done campaign, which is creating and building local teams, and we've got the creation of the policy. When it comes to public education voter, it's going to be about telling people if in case there is now Initiative 22, which is a constitutional right to school choice. They are not collecting signatures yet, but we'll be ready to do a decline to sign with that and there's going to be school board elections. We don't get involved with candidates, but we can help people understand how to get the information they need to know who to vote for. The creating local teams, there are a number of ways we're going to be thinking about this. Getting school board resolutions to ask their legislators to take this action is a really effective way to get legislators to hear from their constituents, and there are things that we can do to make sure those school board resolutions get done. There's state and local action on federal policies regarding privatization, vouchers, cuts. This is a key part, inviting legislators to meetings about the adequacy and Tabor issues. We have a toolkit with all the presentation that you can give, and at the end of that, seeking those legislators' commitment to getting it done. Will you be part of that interim committee? Will you commit to keep learning? There's a possibility we could do school tours. There's a possibility we could do back to school activities. There's all kinds of team building efforts that is going to be the conversation that we're going to be having here at Advocates Network today, but over time. And then finally, there's the policy. What's going to go on the ballot? There are a lot of folks looking at the ballot right now for childcare, for students with disabilities, for mental health, and for education. And those conversations are ongoing. And you'll see that I think that they should end in January, because either we got to get something referred from the legislature, or we have to be gathering signatures in January, or we'll be too late. There's the informal legislative interim committee, where they'll be talking about how do we get from where we are with the adequacy to where we need to be. And then we got to be ready for a signature gathering or advocacy for a referred measure. So that's what's coming down the pike. And at this point, I'd love to have folks talk about questions they have, but also brainstorming. And the reason I put hope and courage here is we had a meeting with the Great Ed Policy Committee. And after I laid all that out, I said, what are y'all thinking? And Sylvia Bookhart, who used to work in DPS and on our board, said, the thing that's just coming to me is, let us build the hope and the courage to make the changes we need to make, to take all of that seems so negative and that we're under siege, and turn it into the fight that we know we need to make, and the getting past our learned helplessness and really getting it done. So I'm going to stop sharing there, and we've got 15 minutes for some conversation about brainstorming and, how are we going to do this? What do we feel like we could commit to? And how do we leave here today energized rather than deflated, and ready to fight rather than feeling overwhelmed? Katie. You're on mute.
All right, I'm not going to be deflated here. I mean, first of all, I just want to acknowledge, Lisa, like, so much work and so many people have been working on this issue for so long, and like you are staying in it, and I just like want to thank you so much for all the work that you and your leadership at Great Ed has allowed.
There's a lot of people on this call who that goes to as well.
Yes.
Thank you, Katie.
Yes, so to all of you, Senator Kipp, I think you did such a good job earlier today at just pointing to that structural issue. And I know that one of the observations I have, I have kids in school and I talk to so many parents. And like one observation is that every time people are asked to act and then it doesn't solve the problem, then they like join us in this like it's never going to happen kind of challenge. And so I really appreciate Senator Kolker's commitment to elevating the issue. And also, I think to your point, this new fund doesn't actually solve the structural deficit. It just takes more of what we have and says it has to go to education, even though we know we have these healthcare, we have all these other pressures in the budget. And so I think one of my questions is like, how do we, especially with our legislators, how do we get everybody kind of on that same page so everybody is really pointing towards that structural deficit?
So I think that what we're going to have to do is, start meeting with the people who, and by the way, I don't think this is just the legislative committee. I think this is a committee that is going to be comprised of people like all of you, right? I mean, I think there are people who are already meeting, and I think rather than having, this whole separate legislative effort, incorporate the legislators into the efforts you already have. And then, the ones who aren't perhaps actively participating or actively participating all the time because there are a lot of demands on people's time, I think we need to be, informing them, like, I don't know how often we're going to meet, but like, a couple times a month or at least every month about what are we doing and what are those things. And if you want to have some input into this is how you get involved, right? I think it's got to be all of the above in terms of trying to make sure that people know what we're trying to do.
Did you have a second question, Katie, it sounded like? Or is that it?
I think that like the thing I just reflect on is the challenge right? Like overturning Tabor is a hard thing to do. Or Tabor fix is a really hard thing to do versus like getting the quick win. So I guess that, as we're all brainstorming, that's the thing I've just been noodling a lot is how do we help people stay in the space of the hard so that we get the thing that will solve the problem in some way, shape, or form.
That is the conundrum created on purpose by Tabor, is figuring that the short term versus the long term. And I think that us building these teams is one way that we are prepared to do both when they present themselves. Jerry.
So I was recently on a webinar from Focus on Democracy, and they were talking about how the right has gotten to where it is today. And basically what they were saying is social media, even though most of us probably hate it. But the right has mastered social media. And it's something we sort of stay away from it because we hate it. But at the same time, that's where people are. TikTok and God knows what else is out there, Snapchat or whatever. And it's working for the right. You see it happening around the country. And I'm wondering, as we start this program, is that one way we need to start convincing people that we got a problem? I mean, we all know we have a problem, but I still wonder if the general voter in Colorado knows that we have a problem, because we're great at Band-Aids, but we're running out of Band-Aids.
That's fair. I would love to have anybody respond because I think that's a really important part of the conversation. And the social media, you all have probably heard me say this a number of times. I'm going to keep saying it. I think that everything old is new again. I think that we're going to have to go old school. We have to get social media in to tell this story, to get people more aware. And Jerry, you're absolutely right. And we at Great Ed don't have answers yet, but are always trying to figure that out. But ultimately, the way that we're going to overcome this, people are going to they fast forward um, over television ads. They don't look at digital ads. They take what's in their mailbox and put it in the recycling. It's people talking to people that is going to make this different. It's building that credibility, and we need to have all of all ages in all communities. That's the hard work, but that's what makes it sticky. That's what stops people from saying, buying vote no, it's your dough. And actually saying, no, this is the thing that Jerry had me sign, that thing about taxes, and I'm gonna stick with it. Lee.
Yeah, one thing that when we talk about social media, I know a lot of us, can't really get into it like the majority of the world is. I think one thing what just looking at social media and looking at the TikTok people and those influencers is maybe connecting with those who already have a uh, that already have a base,
Mhm.
and sometimes that does require you to pay. But I think if there are a lot of social media platforms that are out there that are focused on education, I know that if I'm not mistaken, I think I have seen some of their folks on TikTok making TikTok videos talking about Tabor and connecting with those individuals who already have a social media presence and have followers. I think that's the way to go. And I know a couple years ago, I know that Annalise had started us working on a TikTok video
That's right.
and that we did in Mary's backyard. Remember that?
I
And so
do.
just starting that and just starting that presence and not being afraid and not waiting for it to be the right time, just get in where you fit in. And so and not even being concerned because what the right is doing, their message is wrong as two left shoes, and they don't care, and they are out there putting it out there constantly. I mean, when they say, Trump is an idiot, but he doesn't care. And he will open his mouth any day of the week, doesn't care. He's just out there. I'm not saying being like that, but I am saying that we can't be afraid to speak up, speak out, and speak loudly. And that's what the right has versus the left. We are measurable about our words, making sure that we come with correct information. These fools, they don't care. And so I think sometimes we just got to get out there, and just say it. Tabor is the devil. Next, and all those things, and just make it as plain and simple. Vote no on this. One time money looks like this. Your money, do you want, and people don't realize that check that they're waving in front of your face does not do this. This is the reason why we have X, Y, and Z, and make it, the attention span is getting smaller and smaller. So I think that's what we really need to concentrate on.
Absolutely. We'll be always working on it. Christy.
I was thinking about it. So many young people, well, let me put it this way. 20 years ago, when I know I was fighting Tabor, people didn't know what Tabor was, and a lot of people still don't know what Tabor is. But we kept saying, this is going to happen, that's going to happen. If we keep going down this path, this is why you got to, do all this stuff. Now it's happening. It's no longer theoretical, the sky is falling. We've got very tangible things that people are feeling. And I think a lot of young families, even though they don't have a lot of time, I see a lot of the moms talking about this, like they're writing their superintendents because they think the superintendent is to blame. And I was telling my daughter, I said, no, you need to understand where the problem is coming from. And so she said, well, okay, can you come and tell a bunch of these parents? Because everybody's up in arms. Well, yeah, we're going to go do that. And I think young families are a really good audience to somehow during the school day when a lot of them are not working, believe it or not. And they're the ones that will help anyway. We need to get in there in every district and build the teams by talking one-on-one or in, forums of some kind.
Agreed. Senator, you want to?
I just wanted to chime in a little bit on the social media. I mean, social media has a place. I'm not denying that, but I also want to make sure that people understand that part of the far right success in social media has been through, paid Russian bots and the fact that they are controlling the algorithms for deciding what you get to see, right? I mean, honestly, X has become a cesspool, the platform formerly known as Twitter. I got off of it the day after the election. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. And so, yes, I mean, there's still, I still have friends who are on Facebook or, wherever, and I do try and engage occasionally there. But I just want people to be aware that the reason that have been successful with these is because they're not playing on a level playing field and that people are funding this. So I just think that's an important distinction.
I appreciate that too. We have a uphill battle, but we also have the voters really agreeing with us. We just have to have that courage that Lee was talking about and to just move forward and have the guts to ask. But any other question before I'm just gonna do sort of the closing here. Really appreciate your time as always. This is one way, that's a forum to request a presentation. They've really been taking off lately because they do one presentation and people see it and they say they want signed up a whole bunch of PTAs, which is really exciting. But just think about like what Christy was saying, just a group of people in her daughter's neighborhood are going to get together and I'm going to go talk. So that is one thing. Let me go back to, that's not where it is. Give me 1 second. Just a couple of QR codes for you. See, now I know what Ben was doing. It's a lot harder when you're in the middle of it. So there will be somebody who is taking Ben's place, and here's what our ask is today. When that happens, this new person is going to start making phone calls and figuring out who to talk to first. And what I hope you'll do is let us know in some way. You can put it in the chat right now. You can email me at lisa@greateducation.org. But if you want to be one of those people who is going to help this new person figure out that the tools and the best way to start building communities, building local teams that are going to get those school board resolutions and get those legislators to learn about the adequacy study, let us know that you want to be at the top of the list so that we can start getting that done. So that this new person will have the cadre of folks. And, if it's all of us, then this is our meeting every month. But really do want to, and obviously that's that gets you to the advocacy network. That's the link. But just to look at y'all again here, this is the resistance. This is how we fix Tabor. This is how we protect public education. this is how we protect it from what's happening at the national level and the folks who want to do it at the local level. And the number one way to really promote privatization is to starve schools. This is where we start getting it done. So if you are among the people who would say, I will help put together that group of people who are going to invite our legislators and put together those meetings, please let us know so that we can put you right up there at the top of the list to get this new person going and running with this. So that is the request. Ask for a presentation, get involved, because this is the fight. This is what we have to do to get something on the ballot in 2026, which is a moral imperative at this point. I'll stick on for a couple of minutes if there's anybody who wants to ask a question in particular or volunteer to start your local team. But that is Advocates Network for May.